Hello, welcome along, Nigel here with you, Nigel's Modelling Bench. Here we are now with another video on this beautiful Boulton Defiant from Airscale at 1/32 scale, and Dottie's barking because I've put the camera on. Oh dear, unfortunately the people who live behind me have got the gardeners in this week, and they're doing some pretty major surgery in their garden. And lots of new interesting sounds and faces that Dottie hasn't seen before, so unfortunately she likes to sit on the landing and bark at them. Anyway, back to the model. In part one I had a few points raised, a few questions, and I just wanted to basically cover those parts. So I'm calling this video part 1A because I'm not necessarily going to do any more building. I'm just going to go through what has been asked, what I've done, what I've said wrong, what I've done wrong. So basically one of the first questions was, are you doing a build? Yes, this is part 1A of a build series. I will be building this. Hopefully I will see it through to the end because it's a fairly quick build by the look of it. The other thing was something I forgot to mention, well, I didn't know about actually when I did my review, but I do now. If you remember when we did the review of the kit, we came along and we had these little individual 3D printed blocks which are landing lights. Okay, now you will also notice that in this block here, just next to the wheels there, you can see that we have landing lights. You can see we have the same thing here. The reason you've got these is because when Peter designed the model, he hadn't allowed for the thickness of the clear part. So basically you've got landing lights here molded in the clear sprue, and then these are thin enough to fit in behind. So basically use these, not those. Okay, so that's something which is nice and that I wish all manufacturers would do, and that we know they don't. And then here, you've also got in here, we have some propeller blades. As you can see there, we've got some beautifully molded or beautifully printed propeller blades. But we also have propeller blades in here, as you can see. 3 propeller blades. Okay, but when you look at the base, you can see the base is not very, basically the end of the propeller blade is buried in the base. On here, the propeller blade is raised, and the thing is, he's done that because it's a square block and it keys into the I don't know if you could just see it through there. You've got the propeller blade hub, you could just see it there, and you've got a square hole in there, so they key in like that. So that's why he's redone the propeller blades. So you don't use these propeller blades, but you do have some beautifully printed spares with that lovely detail at the bottom that you can use on another hub or something with some brass wire should you wish. So that's a really nice touch. So there we go. So that is basically one of the things I forgot to tell you. Now, yesterday my video went out, the part 1 video, and as I say, I got lots of you asking me questions, and also Peter, the designer and manufacturer of the kit and owner of Airscale, has contacted me and said, you're doing it all wrong, you're doing it all wrong. And a few of you have also suggested the same, and a few of you have asked why I'm doing it the way I'm doing it. Okay, now I'm not a 3D printed modeler. If I'm honest, I prefer injection molded plastic to work with, but when you look at stuff like this, when you look at the detail you're getting with this compared to injection molded plastic, there is absolutely no comparison. So I may be converted after doing this, I don't know. We'll see how we get on. But I would much rather be using styrene cement and stuff, which you can't use with 3D printed material. We have to use super glue, and I would rather have sprues to remove the part from rather than these blocks. But that's only because I've made it hard on myself. The way it's designed, according to Peter, is what you're supposed to do is remove, as you know, I went in here and got these bits off, and he said he can't believe I haven't damaged other parts trying to get in there. The way it's designed is that you remove the whole block, okay, and then you can pick your way in. So if I pick a particularly complex block like this one here, weighs a ton, let's just say I wanted to get that spinner out. Okay, so there's the spinner there. The way I've got about it is completely ludicrous because there's no way you're getting that spinner out of there without disturbing everything else. So the way the model is designed when Peter built this, well, when Peter made this, the way it's designed, you come along, the first thing you do when you get your kit was, as I suggested at the end of part 1, you come along, you remove the frame, break it away, snap it away, cut it away, whatever. Then all you've got is the base with all the parts sticking out, and then you just work from the outside in. Get the parts off, clean them up, get them primed in a box, all separate, job done. So, like for instance, if I wanted to get to that prop hub there, not impossible, but if I just took all the parts off at one, it would be easy. So that's the way it's designed. So I've gone about it all wrong. So basically, yeah, if I want to get to those spinners, I've got to do what Peter's suggesting and remove the whole block. The reason I've gone about it the way I have is because I wanted to keep this, partly for the video, not for me, but partly for the video. I wanted to keep everything in this beautiful box, and then you can all see how lovely it is to work with. But you know, failing that, you would take all the parts off, and then you would you know, move along to the next stage. Now, you're not seeing double. I've actually got 2 of these. I messed up. I did mess up when I was removing the seat and broke it. So Peter kindly sent me another one, so that was very good of him. So what we can do here is use this one to display basically what I'm talking about. So what we can do now is cut through here. I think if we cut halfway through these, they will just snap off. There you go, you can see how easy it snaps. It's fairly brittle, the ABS. Got to be a bit careful of that one. We've got some supports right next to it, so be very careful on that one. And the same here. That one's in the clear. That one's got the wheel right next to it. Should be okay. And then this one, there we go. So now we should be able to remove the frame once we cut that one away. Okay, so that's the upper frame. So that goes in the rubbish. There's nothing you can do with that. I mean, you could make some little sanding sticks out of it, I suppose, if you wanted to. So now, as you can see, we have everything here in front of us, and it's really easy to get to. So if I want to get to that tail wheel, I can remove that bit there. I can remove that support from there. Remove that support from the base. I've got the nippers this way up because the wheel is so close to the base. Okay. As you can see, I can come in from all the angles because we've got nothing in the way. We do have that in the way there. Okay. Somebody also asked about using a knife that oscillates. I have looked into them in the past. They are quite expensive. But the other thing I didn't like about them mainly was the fact they're quite chunky. They're quite bulky to hold in your hand. There's probably smaller ones out there now. But the other thing that really worried me was the health and safety aspect. Now, you'll know that I'm not big on health and safety. I grew up in an age when health and safety wasn't such a thing. Today I think it's going a bit ridiculous. I think it's starting to turn around, but you know, I mean, when I was a kid, I used to fall in streams and probably get mouthfuls of mud and everything was fine. You know, these days if somebody gets a blade of grass in their mouth, they're panicking, they're going to die. You know, it's just ridiculous. But anyway, enough about that. But what worries me is with this knife here, I can lay that on my finger. I can rub the blade across my finger because I'm not pressing in. If I push in, I will cut myself. Obviously, if I stab, I will stab myself. Those ultrasonic things, as soon as you touch it, it starts cutting. So I think it's cutting. It's vibrating anyway. But if you accidentally touch the blade, you slice your finger, as far as I can tell. So that really puts me off. Because if I was using it, like I'm using this knife here, okay, I'm going to use this knife to remove that little support there. Okay, and that support is actually attached to the tyre as well, so that's fine. So I've got like that, and then I touch the blade on my finger and I've cut myself before I know it. That's why they always come with chain, like metal chain gloves. But you can imagine trying to handle that with metal chain gloves on, it's just not going to work. So there we go, so we've got the tail wheel off. So next thing we can do now is get this little throttle quadrant off. Again, I'm going to stay at the bottom. Okay, work my way through. The other way you think you can do is go from the top. You actually cut the supports off of the part rather than cut them off the base. But it depends how you want to work. You can go any way you want. So there we go. What I'm doing here is I'm going to cut away from the base now because it's just going to break off easily. But we've got to be really careful of those levers and things. And I can see on the back there that there's a support which could be holding a lever. There we go, it's come off. Where did it go? It landed back on the block. There we go. So there is our throttle quadrant, as beautiful as it is. You can see all the supports on there. They'll come off, they'll clean off and sand off, job done. So as you can see, we're building a small assembly of parts. Quite how you're going to store them without breaking them, I do not know. But especially with things like these gun barrels. And this is what I was trying to show you in the video yesterday, is when you do start cutting your supports, look for the weak parts. Somebody also asked the question, how do you manage with very small handles? Well, basically, you come in and remove that support from those barrels, and then I can just break that support or cut that support away. Okay, and make sure you do the flimsy parts first, because otherwise when you come to cut the main parts off the gun, what will happen is you'll be having all this mass here hanging on those gun barrels, and that's not a good idea. So I've cut that one off. Now here you can see we've got these two antennae. I'm going to remove these because they're going to be in my way. So I can remove those like that and then cut the bottom one off. That should fall away. So there's an antenna. I'm going to put that over there, otherwise it'll get mixed up with these supports. And now we can just hack through there just like that without worrying about any damage or anything. Just remove those supports. There's another one there that can come out. Cut that away just like so. Let's put all those parts over there actually. And then we can come along up to here, and now you can see how much easier it is to do with the block out of the way. And that's just flicked across the room. There's another antenna. Obviously it's all going to need cleaning up, and then we can come along and just cut away these supports here that were supporting those barrels. But as you can see, we're going to have a lot of flimsy parts to pack up. But something that Peter, he actually said he should have put it in the instructions. This is one of the problems when people, it'd be the same as me, if I wrote a book about how to build a car engine, say, there are bits I would miss out because I know what I'm doing. When you get a novice like me come on with something like this, I need instructions for every step of the way. And the trouble is, when you've got an expert like Peter, who's an absolute professional modeler, one of the best, you know, he doesn't think to tell us that cut all the parts off. The way he designed the kit is to have all the parts removed, cleaned up, primed, and then you've got a box of parts to work with. That was the way he envisaged the kit being done. Okay, so I'm not going to keep the camera going, but we can go on now and just, as you can see, work our way around. And hopefully what I'm showing you here is how much easier it is to do if you do it the proper way. But oh, somebody else asked why we've got all these supports. The reason is this is actually done upside down. Okay, so it goes into resin, laser fires, whatever, cures the resin. If you didn't have these supports, you would basically just have, if you can imagine like I've taken these supports away from these barrels, as that goes in and out of the resin, they're just all gonna sag. You're gonna end up with drooping barrels. So that's one of the that's why it's got supports on it. Okay, so think of it as if you were, you know, if you were trying to construct this from, I don't know, little balls, all the balls would start falling off. They need support to hold them up there. It's the same with the with SPL, whatever it's called, the you know, the old style of 3D printing. So there we go. So I can just carry on removing this. See you in a minute. Okay, so as you can see, parts are off, all done, all cleaned up roughly. With these antenna, you've got these little you can see the little tiny connector points on the back. This is what someone was asking me about. I think these you know, with tiny parts. What we do is just take them off like that, and then as you would with a plastic part, if it'd been cut from a sprue, you'd have the sprue gates. Just sand along its length. This is a 400 grit sanding stick. Just sand along its length and remove just like you would a sprue gate. And then on the top here you can see there's a little tab that fits into the bottom of the fuselage. So we're going to cut that one off there. We're going to cut that one off there. And then again, just lightly sand over. And that's it. The part's cleaned up. Same for this one. Again, this is even more slender. As I say, there was somebody that asked about slender parts. So just remove the excess. I've got a feeling this one's going to lay flat in the fuselage, isn't it, the rear one? We just sand along the length, and because it's ABS, you can see it's not too brittle. It flexes about a bit. So there we go. That's that one. Then, as I remember, you've got no mould seams or anything, so there's no parting seams from the mould tools. It's literally just those little pips you have to clean up. So there's our antenna done. The tail wheel, you can see on the bottom there are some little connectors, little supports. So we just sand them away, just like so. They're on the flat spot. And there's a couple of tiny ones on the sides here, which I can't even see. I'm just going to rub over there quickly with a sanding stick. And there's our tail wheel done. Very, very nice. If you want to, I guess you could cut those supports out. You can see there's a couple of supports in the side there for the tyre, but I'm going to leave them in because it'll obviously make it a lot stronger. And then with our little throttle quadrant here, I should probably do this underneath a magnifier because I can't really see what I'm doing, but I'll do what I can see. All of that sticking out the top is all levers. There's a little support there on the back corner, and there's a tiny little support there and a tiny one there. And then what you can do as well with a knife, just come along and just knock them off. They generally kind of break away rather than need to be cut. But and then on this one here, we can just go across the bottom. Just remove those little raised bits. And that's it. Again, no mould seams, nothing to worry about. And as you can tell from all this stuff here, when it's primed, it's going to absolutely pop. It's going to look beautiful. So there's our throttle quadrant. And undercarriage legs, as I say, they need cleaning up. And the same with the machine guns. Quite a lot of cleanup on here because there's a lot of connection points. Be very, very careful around the back end here. There's like a switch panel here. There's a lever here. There's not really a very good picture in the manual of what it should look like. There's a photograph, a wartime photo here, which you could perhaps blow up. But, a lot of it's going to be buried anyway, if you're going to have the turret closed especially. So there we are. So that's my sort of part 1A, correcting myself from what I told you yesterday. I'm going to put those over there because they're not cleaned up yet. But as you can see, we've got a right old pile of rubbish here. So we can get all that swept up. Job done. So, and as I say, don't think you're going mad when you see me getting an ABS box out again, because I luckily have 2 of these. So there we are. Right, that can go in the bin, and we've got our parts ready to go. So what I'm going to do in the meantime, or when I come to part 2, I am going to jump onto the instrument panel and do these side pieces here and the instrument panel, because looking here you can see, where was it? It says, I read it somewhere, sidewall detail may need adjusting to allow instrument panel to fit. Ensure panel is flush with bulkhead. So what I want to do is actually build up the instrument panel first. In fact, what I probably could do is just use this one piece 29 before we start putting these side pieces in, because it looks like they may foul or whatever. So we'll see how we go. All right, so I'll see you back for part 2 of the build, and then we'll get it all get that done, and then we'll get it all painted and everything. All this is going to be that lovely RAF interior green, and when we put that on, it's really going to pop, because that really does make things look great as well. These just a couple of additional notes. It looks like these cylinders here, black on the restored aircraft, they're black. Maybe they should be green, I don't know. These here are chrome, they're hydraulic rams, so they're going to be chrome. This outer edge is actually part of the outside of the aircraft, so that's going to be the colour of the aircraft. So paint it all green, then you probably have to brush that in afterwards. or even when it's all painted, you'll mask the windows and paint it then. The other thing I was going to say, on this little transmitter, these white, these things here, not these white, these things here are actually bungee cords, so they actually strap down and hold it down, so they've got to be painted white. So there we go. Any other notes that Peter sends me along the way, I will pass on to you, so you will get all of Peter's knowledge. So there we go. Okay, now you can see how much work Wing's put into their instructions, because Peter's no doubt spent a long time doing this, and then afterwards thought, oh, I should have added that, I should have added that, I should have added that. But I know that Richard Alexander of Wing, he was extremely, and you can see it with Qatari now, he was extremely fussy about the content of those models. So you know, that's fair. But you see, this is the thing, Wing was a team, Qatari is a team, Peter's on his own. So bear that in mind. Any information I get, I will pass on to you. And any information you give me, that if I know it's right, I will pass it on to you as well. So thank you for watching. I'll see you all soon for part 2. Bye for now.